Today we are talking about the new moon in Libra in October and how it's about balance and fairness, but there is also a very strong independent streak in this new moon, so stay tuned. Hi everyone, I'm Donna Stellhorn, your practical astrologer, here to talk to you today about the new moon on October 6th. This new moon is in Libra. We're going to be doing an overview of this chart, and then we're going to go sign by sign. And there are going to be chapters that YouTube does for you, plus there's timestamps in the description. I want to welcome all of you who have joined us today. It is so gratifying that you guys are listening to these videos. I really appreciate it, and thank you so much for the nice comments. It is just, it warms my heart. Thank you so much. So here's the chart, and as you can see, we have the Sun, Moon, Mars, and Uranus all at 13 degrees. And while in astrology, a lot of the times we are only looking at the degrees because that means that the planets are talking to each other, we also do want to take into consideration the numerology that's going on here. Now, let's step back a second and think about Libra. Libra is the sign of balance and relationships. So in the chart, we sit at the horizon with our ascendant, and so that natural placement is Aries. Your ascendant might be something entirely different, but the natural wheel has Aries as the ascendant, and therefore the descendant, the opposite sign, would be Libra. And so the ascendant or first house represents us, and then the seventh house or descendant represents everyone else. And so all new opportunities for relationships come in through the seventh house, and the seventh house and descendant is naturally the sign of Libra. So we connect Libra very much to relationships. Now, this doesn't mean that if you are a Libra that you're an expert at relationships. Far to the contrary. So it is that when we have a sun in Libra, we are learning how to do relationships. We are learning that. Whatever your sun is what you're learning. So when we're Aries, if your sun is Aries, we are learning then to take action, very direct action, to not sit around, to really jump to it. And, we can go through the list. So when you read about the qualities of your sun sign, remember that you are reading what your soul is aspiring to in this lifetime. Now, this is quite different, of course, to your ascendant, and that's why I recommend that when you listen to the individual predictions, you listen to both your sun sign as well as your ascendant, because the ascendant predictions, that is going to be something that feels very much in line with what's going on with you. So, but I digress. When we are looking at this Libra energy that we're doing in this new moon, we are thinking about this balance between relating to others and being, what you can to be in that relationship, whether that means compromising or adjusting what you're doing, versus the other side of this set of scales, which is being independent and being self-reliant. And so we have now this sort of energy of finding the balance between those two things. So now we have a really interesting energy in the sense that this is not just a normal new moon. This is a new moon exactly conjunct Mars. And Mars represents, Mars rules Aries. And so Mars is the planet that says, go be independent, go be self-reliant, don't wait for others, move forward. And it's sitting there in Libra in this new moon energy. So doing this balance is very important. And so some of what we're seeing, of course, as we are sort of transitioning out of the pandemic, I do feel like the pandemic stuff's still going to go on until we get that December Uranus Saturn square. And then I think that, we'll pretty much at that point know what direction we're going with all of this. But with this, there is this desire maybe to get out there and do things more and more, but then we are balancing, our own health with, the health of other people around us. And so some of that is this going on. Now, there's also this idea of, you're in a relationship, and this Mars, which says be self-reliant, is saying, well, let's be self-reliant together. How about pulling communities together, or at least families together, or maybe the people in your apartment complex pulling together to help each other. But what makes this new moon with this Mars so incredibly intense is we look over and we see that Uranus is also at 13 degrees, and it is in Taurus, which means that by sign, and by aspect, this is an inconjunct. An inconjunct, or sometimes people call it a quincunx. And this energy is about making adjustments. This is an uncomfortable aspect that says that whatever direction you were thinking of going, you have to shift or pivot. Now, this is an inconjunct, so it is not a pivot like going the opposite direction. It is an adjustment. So it's more like a lane change, or maybe it's a need to get off the freeway, but you're still going to head to your destination. There's just an adjustment that you're making. Now, the really interesting thing, I don't know how many times I've said that this time, but the really interesting thing here is that the Libra planets that we have, Sun, Moon, and Mars, and this Taurus planet, Uranus, are all ruled by Venus. And so even though they are an inconjunct energy, they are all ruled by the same planet, which is sitting there at 28 degrees of Scorpio. Now, the Venus in Scorpio energy is quite judgmental. It is one that is discerning to say, this is going to benefit me and that is not going to benefit me. And so it's very aware of, what are the resources that it has, or what are the resources that it does not have. Additionally, Venus here is also going to say, what is the truth? Venus will want the truth and will, do whatever it takes to uncover the truth about things. So what can this mean for you? It can mean that some truths will be revealed over this period that cause you to pivot or make an adjustment. But it also can mean that truths are coming out which are then going to cause other people to make adjustments, which then ripple to you. So you may not, you might say to yourself, I already knew those truths. I already knew that was happening, or those facts, but other people maybe did not. And now there is shifts that they're making, and then you have to make shifts as well. So I know that we're going to get into specifics for what this is for each sign. But that's more of how some of this energy is going to work. Now, I want to bring in this idea of the number 13 also, which, again, super interesting, because the number 13 is this energy that combines the number 1, which is about independence and self-reliance, with the number 3, which is about bringing in some outside help for creativity. We see the number 3 maybe in the tarot with the 3 of Pentacles, for example, where we see 3 people coming together, each with their own skill set, or each with whatever they have to offer to create something larger. But we also see this in the tarot with the 3 of Swords, where there can be maybe a division in a relationship or things like that, where it's not, nothing is completely positive. Everything is a balance of positive and negative. And so there is that issue of, that maybe there's just too much doubt, or there is suspicion, or there is actually a third person in a relationship, and that's causing problems. So we have this number 13. So independence and then pulling in other people for creativity. And if we add the 1 and 3 together, we get 4. Now the number 4 is about hard work and about stability, and that's from a Western perspective. If we look at this from the Chinese astrology or feng shui perspective, then we are looking also at a releasing, a letting go. There is more energy of an ending happening. So finding the balance between those two energies is that we are being independent. We have an idea. We go out into the world and we get positive or negative feedback on that. And then we get to work and we discard or let go of what is not working. And so that's what the number 13 is bringing. And so if you're very attracted to the number 13, then that is energy you really want to work with. If you tend to back away from the number 13, I think that this would be a time for you to meditate on that and say, why am I feeling, apprehensive about this? Because if you can lean in a little to looking at this idea of bringing an idea to the table, cooperating with others, and then getting down to business to see what you need to make this happen. I think looking at the number 13 that way versus, all the stories and folklore about it, I think that could be better, especially for these 2 weeks. So what's the bottom line? This is going to be a really intense 2 weeks because Mars is a very martial sign. Uranus is this explosive energy, and they are an exact inconjunct, and they've pulled the sun and moon along with them. So we are going to have a time where there are things going on where you suddenly need to change directions. And all this means is to be aware and to be flexible about circumstances. And so that can be anything from, having a plan B to say, if you're planning to go to the store on Tuesday and suddenly there's a storm or, there's something that impedes you, maybe you have an opportunity to make some money or somebody in the family needs you, to be ready to pivot, if necessary. So, and then I just wanted to remind you that Mercury is still retrograde. It's going to be retrograde until October 18. And this means that doing some things like getting your car repaired, trying to go get your license renewed, or doing anything that you don't want to repeat is not advised during Mercury retrograde. Now, that said, if you're stuck and you have to get your car repaired, by all means do it. If you are needing something and you cannot, like your laptop's completely broken and you need to get a new computer, of course you're going to get it during Mercury retrograde. But you want to make sure you get the warranty so it can be returned in case the new one doesn't work, and be aware that on future retrogrades that things could go wrong with it. Now, again, this is just a matter of adjusting to the energy. There's a ton of positive things that you can do to use that Mercury retrograde energy to your benefits, like learning a language, eating healthy, doing exercise programs, and things like that. So myself and another astrologer, Tammy Magaro, have started a little series of books on this very subject, and there is a link in the description, and I'm going to put the link somewhere here so you can start to see what we've been working on. Okay, now we're going to go sign by sign, and I just wanted to remind you, in case you didn't know, that I do tropical astrology. It's a Western astrology, of course. Normally I use the Placidus house system, but for predictions, because I don't have your chart in front of me, I am using a zero Aries chart, or it's called the zero Aries chart. And so if you are listening to this, if you're listening to your sun sign, also check out your rising sign. If you don't know your rising sign, you can send me an email and I'll send you a copy of your chart. Okay, let's go sign by sign. Okay, Aries natives, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of relationships, and it's making the inconjunct to Uranus in your house of money. And so we have this sort of push-pull adjustment energy going on between you and your connection with other people and what your plans are for your finances. So what we're looking at here is there's a great deal of a push towards meeting new people and connecting, and this gives you really great energy for meeting somebody new, meeting new friends, meeting a new relationship. And because your sign ruler is in the 7th house and is part of this configuration, it's Mars. It's not like I was trying to make you guess. It is Mars. This is about you feeling quite at home, connecting now with other people, whether that is virtually or in person. But there is some sort of push-pull going on between that and your finances. And so then that can mean that perhaps you're wanting to be more social, but you need to be working. Perhaps you're trying to decide between working at home, where maybe you're more efficient, or being in an office situation where, yes, you get to meet people, but then you have the commute back and forth and you have people interrupting you and things like that. So you're trying to find, I believe, the balance between the two of these. Now, 2nd house is also about self-worth, and so for some of you, there might be that little hesitation about meeting people again because it's just been a long time. And so you might be thinking, perhaps, it's a little awkward, it feels strange to be in groups right now, and so maybe that's some of this. It's also possible that this energy is about the fact that you're ready to go out into the world and the world is not ready to greet you. So the people you want to see are pushing back, or that your area is, or your company is, or the school is, that there's something holding this energy back. The interesting thing is that since everything here is at the same degree, it all happens very simultaneously, and this is why it's necessary to pivot. Now, you being in Aries, you are very good at taking fast action. Sometimes that means, though, because you're in motion, it's very difficult to change directions. And so that is that idea of, like the little cartoon character who runs off the cliff because they didn't have that. They were moving too fast to stop or change directions. And so that's what you want to be aware of at this time, is sometimes you move too fast and that causes you not to be able to pivot. Now, when we look at relationships for you, as I hinted before, this is really great energy for meeting new people. And yes, again, there might be some pushback. You may want to meet somebody and then they hesitate or they change their minds or things like that. And you need to be ready to adjust. But if you're online dating, if you are doing something where people are fixing you up, this is really good energy for connecting with somebody. This is, of course, because the Sun, Moon, Mars, and Mercury retrograde is in that house. The retrograde Mercury could bring somebody back from your past, and the other planets could cause you to meet somebody new. So all good news there. Additionally, Mars is making a semi-square to Venus. Now, we don't talk about semi-squares very often. This is a minor aspect. It is kind of like a square, but not as comfortable, if you can imagine that. And so that's part of this energy of really wanting to get out there and meet people, feeling like you can't wait any longer. It's just driving you crazy, like an itch you can't scratch. And so recognize that that's some of the aspect, and you still will have to make some adjustments. When it comes to your home life, you are pulling energy from that moon that is caught in this configuration. And so there is definitely going to be some people in the house who are very much wanting to get out into the world and meet people, and some who are saying, no, we are not going to go and do that. We are going to stay home, or we're going to stay separated from others. And so there could be some adjustments. The difficult part of this configuration that you're in is this can make some big arguments that are happening. And these arguments are coming from small things into larger things. So this is the things that are irritating, the idea that somebody doesn't change the roll of toilet paper, or that somebody ate the last bit of, whatever, they used the last bit of salad dressing or something. So it is these sort of things sets off the bigger irritations that are going on for people. And so be aware that, it's people are a little bit combative. And being that you're Aries, I mean, you might feel like you're always ready for a fight, and that's not necessarily in a bad way. You're just quick on the draw. You know what to say, and you say it. And so, sometimes you want to just back up a little bit and take a breath before you jump in. When it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Venus, which is kind of the puppet master of this whole configuration, is pulling all the strings and, has control over all of this. So you're really in a very strong position to be making more money. The Venus is in your house of resources, and so this is about finding ways to collaborate with others, either by using their money or using their abilities to help all of you grow financially. So really good energy for that. When we look at your traditional investments like stocks and bonds, or money that you get from your business, Venus is making a lovely sextile to Pluto, and Pluto is elevated in your chart. And so this really says that there is lots of opportunities. Now, the interesting thing about a sextile is that if you take the initial action, then everything works. So it's kind of like you have to open the door, you have to make the phone call, you have to send the email, and then everybody says, oh yes, we definitely want to do this. And which is perfect for you because you wanted to initiate the action anyway. So, this is difficult for some signs, but not for Aries. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, you have Saturn and Jupiter there, which is kind of a mixed bag. Plus, Venus is not making an aspect to Uranus, nor is it making an aspect to Saturn. And so this is a little bit of a problem. So it's likely that you're not making more money than usual in your career. I don't think, because your money house is so strong, I don't think this is a loss of job. I think this is just them saying no to a raise or no to you getting more hours. I think that it's just keeping you at the status quo. When it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, Venus is making a semi-square to the sun. And we just talked about that semi-square energy, this more minor aspect that tells you that you have to do something that is uncomfortable or outside of your normal scope of business to make something happen. And so there's definitely a decision that you have to make. And of course, you don't want to enter into this too quickly. Your inclination will be to jump in, but if you do, you have to have a way to jump out again. And that means that you might not want to sign a contract. Maybe you are just testing it out before you sign. Maybe you're doing some paper trading or something like that. But this says that you have to do something that is, it's just something you don't normally do. It's outside your comfort zone to get this thing going. One of the things you have to watch out for with the semi-square is misunderstandings. And so when it comes to risky investments, that could be some misunderstanding in the terms of the contract, how they are going to play out, or a misunderstanding between what you were expecting the other person to provide and what they actually provide. So again, this is something to watch out for. Okay, Taurus natives, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of routines, health, work, basically your daily life. And they are making, and these planets are making the inconjunct to Uranus in Taurus in your own sign. And this Uranus has been plaguing you for now quite a while, and that it is causing you to have to adjust when you don't normally want to. So the energy of Taurus is about sticking to something and having success through that constantly applying that same pressure over and over and over again. What is it that makes a diamond? It's pressure and time. And so that's the focus of your life. However, the Uranus going through your sign, which it does every 84 years or so it's a really long time, but since it's going through your sign, it is telling you to adjust, and now you're getting this mammoth energy of adjustments. So where are you going to be adjusting? Well, we see a lot of this energy surrounding your work, and so maybe that is changing your hours, maybe it's changing the people you're working for or with, maybe it is changing the actual projects that you're working on. Perhaps there is now some, automation that's taking over some of your job. Maybe you have to shift and take somebody else's work on because they're out, or things like that. This is also in your health, and that is what kind of adjustments are you making there with diet and exercise, and even your attitudes about health, whether you are, eat, drink, and be merry, or if you are, no, I'm going to be prudent and, practical and eat my vegetables, etc. And then it's about routines and, how to get everything done during the day, how to find some work-life balance, how to make some shifts in, what you do, what's necessary to do, what could be automated, what could be delegated, what could be eliminated, and so forth. So there's a lot of energy going on about that, but the basic focus of the change is on you. And so because the Uranus is in your first house, this is about changing your attitudes first, about not necessarily seeing that things have to be a certain way, or because we've always done it this way, it has to be this way, to look at things that, they are changing, change is the constant, etc. When it comes to relationships, you have some good energy here because Venus is in your house of relationships, and Venus is the ruler of all of this configuration that we've been talking about. Plus, Venus is making a sextile to Pluto, and so that is all says there's opportunities for new relationship, especially in intimate relationships. So you can meet people for friendships, but a real close, intimate relationship is more this energy because Venus is in Scorpio, and then it's going to move into your house of intimacy. So you got intimacy going on. Because Mercury is retrograde and this Venus is going to move up and hit that south node at some point, this could be somebody from your past or a past life, and so that can be a very strong connection. So I like this energy. Remember, as sextile means you have to activate the energy. That means you have to take the first move. You have to make the phone call or do the text or something like that to get things going, and then it goes very nicely. When it comes to your home life, you are pulling energy from that sun, which is part of this configuration. And so it is saying, look at the things that you do around the house and decide what needs to change. And maybe that's coming from a place of saving the earth, and so you're going to switch out light bulbs or use energy in a different way. Maybe this comes from a place of health, and that is cleaning out the kitchen and getting rid of all the sugar or all the processed foods. Maybe that is just coming through a division of labor, so that the family is pulling together more to help each other, and so that labor is not all just divvied up so that the mom has to do everything. So that's where things are happening. Because it's a difficult configuration, there can be some pushback, there can be some arguments, or disagreements. I know some people they think arguments is too strong a word for an inconjunct. But it's that level of irritation where if you wait too long, it becomes the fight. It becomes too much. So it's good to say something early, which Taurus is not great about, because there's definitely an energy with Taurus about just struggling through. You've got this burden strapped to your back, and you just think, it would take too long to try and get somebody to take some of this from me, so I'll just do it all myself. That's the kind of energy you want to avoid because it's not going to be helpful to you or them. When it comes to your money, you are pulling money from that Mercury in the 6th house, which it's retrograde, so that is like going back to a job you've done before. This could be also that you are kind of in a repetitive motion of some projects, perhaps you're finishing up some things. Retrograde energy can pull you back to a project to finish it. This Mercury is separating from that inconjunct to Neptune, and so things are becoming clearer about what needs to be done. So it might have been like such a big project that you didn't even know what to work on, and now the dust is settling a little bit and you can see what still needs to be done. So I do feel that you have a strong ability to bring in opportunities for money this time. They are all connected to work. So, the more you work, the more money you make. When it comes to passive income sources like affiliate marketing, or, if you have a program out there, a digital program that you just sell, or your own business, or traditional investments, Mercury is making a trine to Jupiter, which is really great news. So we do see you making more money than usual from these sources. Trines are wonderful. Sometimes they're so easy we don't realize it. So you might want to take a look at some of these sources that you have and double down on these, because you're going to see which ones are really working this time, and because the money is flowing in. When it comes to money that comes from a regular job or an employer of some sort, Mercury is separating from that inconjunct with Neptune, but it is still in orb, and so you are making an aspect. So that says that more money can flow into your account. Mercury is the planet that rules your accounts, and so we have to have a way for the money out here to get into your account, and it says it's getting there. It is, though, doing it through an inconjunct, and that means it's doing something you don't necessarily like to do, or you're having to say yes to projects that are boring or, should be done by somebody else. There's some uncomfortableness. There's adjustments that have to be made. Maybe you have to work an odd shift. Maybe you have to work on weekends. So it's more money, yes, but it's not doing exactly what you want to do. And when it comes to risky investments and these things that are unusual or highly leveraged, the energy that you're doing is that Mercury, which is in your 6th house. And so that says, do your due diligence. It's retrograde, so it says go over everything again, do it a second time. It's finishing up that inconjunct with the Neptune that we said. So I think that a lot of the things when you review the contracts will become suddenly more clear. If you're going to invest at this time, make sure that you're doing it in incremental stages. That's what 6th house energy is about. So that would be more of a dollar cost averaging, where you're putting in the same amount on the, like the 1st and the 15th of every month, or once a month, or once a week, or that sort of thing. But dollar cost averaging allows you to get in without, pushing all of your chips into the kitty. So it's something where, when Mercury is retrograde, because Mercury retrograde says repetition, it can be quite useful. Okay, Gemini natives, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of romance, adventure, children, fertility, and risky investments. And so I know that's a lot of things that seem disconnected, but this energy, there's some connections, because there's a sense of risk overall, but also a opportunity for great rewards with all of those things. And so that's why they're all connected in this one house. And so you have all of these planets, the sun, moon, Mars, as well as Mercury, they're saying, yes, let's go for it. And then they're all doing that, well, except for the Mercury, all doing that in conjunct to Uranus, which is hidden in your 12th house. And that is that you might receive the intuition, the intuitive thought to pivot. You might wake up with that message that, okay, it's time to move forward, or it's time to pull back. That's hard to get, however, in this day and age where we are so listening to devices and things like that. Sometimes there is so much input, we don't know what sources it's coming from. So this is ideal if you do regular meditation. Then you can get more spiritual messages. You can hear your intuition more. And so if you're doing that and you come across this message, this feeling that you should pivot, that's that Uranus talking and telling you, okay, I need to make a shift. So, but otherwise, the challenge that you're going to have is that you have to just be very visually aware. You have to be in the present moment, otherwise you will miss the message. And this message could come from a relationship, something with your kids, or something with your risky investments. So let me just give you a couple of examples when it comes to a love relationship. If you have this inkling that the new person you met is still in another relationship, you might want to trust that. So, if you have the inkling that your kid needs a little bit more help than they're saying about school or something, then maybe you want to follow up on that and see if they will open up to you. And most importantly on this channel, most importantly in the world, but on this channel where we focus so much on money, if you have a feeling, an uncomfortable feeling about your investments, it's time to explore what's going on about that. Why are you feeling uncomfortable? Is there some message that you're receiving, or is it just the algorithm has been sending you a lot of doom and gloom stuff? So this is where you want to kind of move slowly, and this can be challenging for Gemini because you guys can process so much information so quickly, but it's in the processing of it. Sometimes it just gets filed away, as opposed to taking a look at the piece of information and applying it to other things going on in your life. So that's where you need to slow down a little bit. When it comes to relationships, you have some really good energy here. Of course, the North Node, South Node is on your horizon, so it's on your ascendant, descendant line. Venus is sitting there, poised to go into your house of relationships. Mercury is making a trine to Jupiter. It's all set up here for you to meet somebody new. Now, the interesting thing about this chart is because the Venus is right below the horizon, this might mean that this meeting comes at the end of the 2-week period, or that it is somebody that you're just completely surprised. Like they were standing right next to you and you were saying, where's this person? Where's this person? But they're right there. Like you already know them, you're already connected to them in some way, or you've met them before in passing, and now they're coming into your life. So, this energy looks really good. If you're looking for a relationship, I think you should be out there looking, or virtually looking. When it comes to your home life, you are pulling energy from that Mercury, which is sitting in that house of children. And so definitely a lot of energy for kids this time. And that's, of course, because the Sun, Moon, Mars is there as well. And so, the kids are in school, and how are they doing in school? And are they adjusting? Are they getting to stay in school? Or is the pandemic causing them to be home? Lots of different things, maybe because they haven't been in school for a while, and now this is the first month or so that they've been back, checking in with them to see how they're doing. I would say that for Gemini and Gemini rising, you're going to be hearing about pregnancies, thinking about adoption also of pets, because we have shifted a lot of pets from 6th house, where they were just an animal, down to 5th house, where they are our little kids. And so we are seeing that this is one of the things about astrology that is so amazing, is it's growing. We as astrologers, we're still learning about it. We're still finding out how everything works. And so we are seeing this more and more, that a lot of pets are falling in that 5th house of children. So when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that moon in that house of risky investments. So it's part of this configuration with that arm of it in your house of intuition, but also secrets and disturbing ideas and all of that. So, you're pulling money from a place that says that you might have an underlying feeling of insecurity, whereas before you might have felt more secure about your job or the future of the markets or things like that. Now you are probably feeling little ripples, maybe some cracks in the foundation. And so this is your opportunity to look at what you can do to mitigate risk, to look at what your risk tolerance is, and maybe you don't have the risk tolerance for being in the market right now. Maybe you need to move to things that are more stable, or you do want to take a risk on having your own business or something like that, and you are willing to risk a certain amount of your savings for that. So this is, I do see money coming in, but I think that you are drawing that money because you are nervous about the markets, which, by the way, can draw as much or more as any aspect out there, because, we draw energy and opportunity to us through emotion. And that means, like half the time that's positive emotions, but sometimes that's negative emotions. And negative emotions work well to draw energy. It's just, the problem is it's not pleasant. It's not a happy life to do that. So if you are feeling really nervous about finances going forward, about maybe inflation or the stability of your job, take some steps to secure your position if that's at all possible, but also to look at this and say, which parts of this am I fearful about, that which are real and which are exacerbated by what I am viewing in the media. Now, when it comes to your money that comes from traditional investments or from your business, and this could include things like network marketing or affiliate marketing, the moon's making a trine to Saturn, so you have some great energy here. And that means you're likely to be making more this month over the next 2 weeks than you do usually. So, which kind of flies in the face of what we were saying before with you being concerned about, where the markets are going. So your concern might be at the long term, or maybe you're looking for the signs that are going to tell you that the market's going to turn. But what it looks like here is that your investments and your business are doing better than usual. When it comes to money derived from career, we also have good news because the moon's making a conjunction to Mars, an exact conjunction. So if there was any time during this whole year for you to ask for a raise, this is the time. This is also a time where you can get a new job and you can negotiate your salary, you can get a promotion. You have such good energy here. Now, that all said, it's still making that inconjunct to the Uranus, which is kind of like the unforeseen consequences of doing that. So you ask for the raise, you get the raise, but now you have more responsibility, or now you need to show up in the office or things like that. So yes, there's a little bit of weighing that's going on, and it is possible before the end of the year that you will have another good time to ask for a raise that maybe doesn't have these consequences to it. But, generally, when in business, when we ask for something, there's always give and take. And so there's not usually going to be an opportunity to get more money without some sort of additional effort that you have to make, or, that you have to take a leadership role or something like that. So you might want to grab this opportunity. And then when it comes to risky investments, and these are things that are very unusual, highly leveraged, or take a really long time to get going, like a YouTube channel, you are doing a really good chart. It's Sun, Moon, Mars, Mercury in that house, plus the moon is making a semi-square to Venus, which the only issues that we're seeing here is that there is a potential for some miscommunications that could cost you something. And that is if you're rushing into something, if you feel you understand it, but you didn't really, like if you skim the contract or something like that. the moon is making the inconjunct to Uranus, as we've been talking about. So there can be something where they surprise you with an addendum or something like that. And you were like, hey, this isn't the contract we discussed, etc. But this also can be that if you're doing something that takes a really long time to do, you're just feeling a little tired and you need to change it up somehow. If you are, maybe there's some steady growth on your channel, but it's just not moving that quick. The Venus is in the 6th house of incremental changes. And so that is just ratcheted up. Maybe look at some videos on improving the thumbnail or something like that. Something I probably should do. But looking at the different things that you can do that are small things to get some improvement and get your excitement about your project back. But overall, I see really good energy here for you and risky investments over the next 2 weeks. Okay, Cancer natives, you guys are doing this new moon in your area of home and family. This also is the dwelling that you live in. Real estate in general, this also includes extended relatives, so that would be people who don't live in your house. And then it does include, though, the roommates who do live in your house. So you're doing a ton of energy there, and that might mean that you are making some adjustments about your home. And so you might be doing some renovations, you might be looking to buy a home, because you're doing that inconjunct to Uranus in your house of the future and technology and all that. This could be that you are updating things in the house, maybe electrical or things like that. But it also could be that you have a desire to move closer to friends and family and to be in a different place. And so but there's more of a desire, because an inconjunct can make it difficult to take an action. And so, in some ways, what I'm seeing here is that you might have this desire to do something out in the world, but the decisions you're making are keeping you stuck in a place. And that is, I had a client who, all she wanted to do was to move out of the city that she lived in. That's all she talked about every time we spoke. She wanted to move back to a place she had come from. And then, as we were talking one day, she said, oh, and I bought a house. I said, wow, where'd you buy the house? And she bought it in the city she wanted to leave. And she said, but it was such a good deal. And to this day, she still lives in that city, the city she didn't like. And so that is, make sure that the actions you take are not so counter to your long-term goals. And the long-term goals are represented by this Uranus. So that is, look at the decisions you're making to make sure they're in harmony with your goals. Now, the other thing about this is, Cancer natives, you guys are so empathetic and so caring about others, always taking care of other people. And so with this configuration, you may be rushing in to care for someone, when in actuality, for the long-term picture, that's not so beneficial for them. And you may have to do the uncomfortable thing of weaning them off. And so that's what we see, again, with this inconjunct to Uranus, that somebody who maybe already lives with you or is coming to live with you again, you have to put some very strict limits on this and say, I'm going to have to put some boundaries here on how long you can stay or what you need to pay or something like that, so that you can get a little balance in this relationship. When you're not balanced in your relationships, when there's not a give and take, you can become depleted. And when you are depleted, it affects not just your spiritual life, but it can affect your intellectual life and it can affect your physical body. And so this is where we see people with a compromised immune system from spiritual reasons, because they were giving and not allowing something to be received. And so that is when we're doing a lot of Libra energy like we are, is to look for the balance. Where is the balance between give and take? And it comes to relationships, you are doing some positive energy because the moon's making a trine to Saturn. And so there is a possibility of meeting someone for a long-term relationship, something that is an intimate relationship or a long-term friendship, and something that may actually end up where you're living together, or maybe purchasing property together. So, and that wouldn't be within this 2 weeks, but it could be over the course of the time. But you have some really good energy for meeting someone over the next 2 weeks. When it comes to home and family, we talked a lot about that already, but you're pulling energy from the Venus, and the Venus is, you know, the kind of the orchestra leader of this whole configuration. And so there is this energy in the family here, maybe of yourself kind of separating and watching things unfold and thinking that you're not involved when you could be pulled in at any moment, or that you are uncovering some sort of truth, and this is in your house of children, so a truth about one of your kids that kind of opens your eyes to the situation so that you can see the situation more clearly. So this is some interesting and powerful energy that you're doing with the family, but it's kind of like you're stepping back and looking at it, observing it from a more detached place than, you know, Cancer energy usually does. So I think that that's going to be quite good for you. I think, you know, finding out the truth about something is a double-edged sword. You know, sometimes we feel quite happy to live in ignorance, but it's always best to have the truth and then to work through the issues that that brings. So I think that that's some of what's occurring this time. It's interesting because the Venus rules the configuration, but it's not making an aspect to the configuration. So that's why I think you're kind of detached, getting the information and processing it over time. When it comes to your money, you're pulling money from the sun in your fourth house, which is part of this configuration. And so this means that you have your feet in the starting blocks and you're just waiting for the gun to go off so that you can run forward and leap into whatever it is. However, that Uranus is saying you may have to pivot at the last moment. And so this is that you might be all set up to go back into the office and then you're told, nope, you know, we need you to just stay home for a little while. Maybe this is that you thought somebody was going to sign a contract, but they don't, that some negotiation is necessary. It's not a 180 turn, as I was saying in the intro. It is more of an adjustment. It's like a lane change because now there's an obstacle ahead of you. So I think that well, I know that Cancer energy is much more able to pivot than a lot of signs. Even though you can get quite emotionally attached, you are a water sign, an active cardinal water sign, which means generally when you hit an obstacle, you go around it. And so this is the opportunity to prove your versatility here, where you adjust when you encounter the obstacle. So I do think that there's quite a few opportunities for you to make money if you're willing to pivot. Now, when it comes to traditional investments like stocks and bonds, or things like making money through your own business or a family business, the sun is making an inconjunct to Uranus. And wow, you know, what have we been talking about this whole time? And it's an exact aspect. So how this works is, yes, there's tons of money out there, but we need to get it into your hands, and the sun represents your hands on the money. And so you are actually able to reach out and get the money. However, there is something that is either unpleasant or uncomfortable that you need to do. And maybe that's just sitting down and looking at the fees on your mutual funds, or maybe migrating your accounts to another brokerage house, or maybe it is taking something in your business that you really love, an aspect of your business, and letting that go because it's just not making you enough money. So, you know, looking at something that you can do that is an adjustment, maybe not the most fun thing to do, that's what's going to make you money. when it comes to money derived from career, Venus is making a semi-square to the sun. So before I said that Venus was not making an aspect to all these planets at 13, but it is. It's making a semi-square. And so in this case, there is the opportunity for you to make more money through your career, through your employer. Now, a semi-square is where there can be misunderstandings, there can be arguments. It's like a really irritated square, and so a square is very combative on its own. And this is, you're already ready for a fight. You're going in there thinking they're not going to give me more money. So you're, like you have your list of reasons, and that's when they say, "Oh, okay," and you're like, I had so many reasons why you needed to do this, and you're already telling me okay. So it is kind of, it can be problematic if you move too quickly. If you go in and say, I need a raise, or I need more hours, or I want a better position, just pause for a moment and let them respond. But you do want to go in prepared to say, these are the reasons why you should do this for me. But you may not need to use those if you just pause for a moment and see if they respond in a positive way. Now, when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, like buying a franchise or, starting a business that needs funding, the sun is not making an aspect to Pluto, but it is doing an exact conjunction to Mars. So that's a very powerful aspect. This is especially good if there is some component to real estate in this business deal that you're making, because the sun and Mars are in the house of real estate. So I do think that there are some big opportunities for you in this area. Now, the sun and Mars are making that exact inconjunct to Uranus, so do read the contract very carefully, understand what you're getting into. There may be some things that when you get in, you say, oh, I did not expect that. So some of the things you can do is to look at potential downside. We try to stay so optimistic that we always look at the upside, but it is important when getting into something risky that you look at the downside and see if that's survivable. And that's, like going long on a stock has risk, of course, but it's considered more a traditional investment because if the stock drops at that point, the maximum you can lose is your entire investment, which I know that's a lot, right? But if you short a stock, which we consider a risky investment, the reason is because if the stock goes the wrong direction for you, in this case going up, and you start to lose money, you can lose an unlimited amount of money, far more than your investment. That's why it's a risky investment. And so being able to assess the risk is very important, and certainly important this time when you're doing a Sun Mars, which is ready to pull the trigger, and doing an inconjunct to Uranus, which says may get ready to adjust. Okay, Leo natives, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of communication, neighbors, siblings, compulsory education, vehicles, and short distance travel. Yeah, that's a lot of stuff, I know. And so all of those categories that I just mentioned, including thinking, dexterity, there are whole books, as you can see, on just what is ruled by what. And so there's a lot of categories here, and we don't mention them all every time. But what this does is it gives you an opportunity to have experiences in some of these areas. So, for example, this is a lot of planets in the house of vehicles, and Mercury's retrograde, so you're probably doing or thinking about your vehicle. Maybe you are turning in a lease, maybe you are looking for a new vehicle, maybe your vehicle is in the shop, maybe your license expired and you don't know whether you need to go to DMV or you can do it online, that sort of thing. This is in your house of siblings. Maybe you have siblings, and so then you would be spending more time talking to siblings, connecting with them. But if you don't have siblings, then you're not doing that energy, and then you might do it in the area of neighbors, or your kids might be dealing with some issues in school, which actually would be third from the fifth. So ignore that I just said that. This would be your own compulsory education, not your kids. Someday I'll do a video on derivative houses. It's fascinating, but we would see your children's education as third house from the fifth house, so that would be the seventh house. So when we take into consideration the Uranus, and the Uranus is up there elevated in your chart, it's in your house of career and reputation and responsibilities. It's the thing that's making the inconjunct to the Sun, Moon, and Mars. And so some of this is that you might be looking at the job market out there and your industry and be thinking, I've got to make some adjustments. Maybe that is that you need more training. Maybe you have to get more versed in computers or different ways of communicating. But this is saying that the jobs in the world are shifting. Those are what's changing, and so that you are then compelled to adjust. This is also about how you communicate with yourself and how you see your own responsibilities, maybe in your community, maybe to yourself, maybe to your family. And so it is looking at how you communicate with yourself versus how you did maybe a couple of years ago before the pandemic. Like, what's changed in how you see the world, how you see your interaction with the world, and making some adjustments there. Now, when it comes to relationships, you actually have some good energy. Okay, let me preface that by saying it's an inconjunct. So this is that if you're looking to meet someone, you can, but they don't look or sound like you're expecting. They are somebody who is outside either of what you were comfortable in dating. Gosh, that's terrible. You don't want to date someone you're uncomfortable dating, but there is some sort of adjustment that you have to make about the situation. So maybe they live pretty far, maybe they're from a foreign country, maybe they have a different religion than you have, maybe they're from a different political views, or their sports team is against your sports team or something like that. So there's something going on here that's causing both of you to have to adjust to make this happen. But it is an aspect, and it is exact aspect. So the most positive aspect, the most positive way this could manifest is for you to have somebody come into your life who you were expecting was going to be your friend or your chiropractor or your personal trainer or something like that, and they become the relationship. And so that's the pivot, that's the shift. But if you are faced with an uncomfortable situation, of course, do not go out with that person. And that would be, with the Sun, Moon, Mars, that desire to rush into something. But that Uranus says, no, you do need to pivot. So, as I've been saying this whole time, take your time about making your assessments because you may have to change directions. When it comes to home and family, you're pulling energy both from that Pluto in the sixth house, which is going to be there still for years, as well as that Mars, which is part of this very intense configuration. And so the energy here is connected to the neighbors, it's connected to siblings, it's connected to kind of the people outside of the home, but just adjacent to it. And so that could be other people who live in the complex from you. So there is a lot of energy going on, and that could mean that people are being more noisy, maybe they are gathering in the courtyard, maybe siblings are coming to visit. All of this energy is happening, making that inconjunct to the Uranus, which is saying you're having to adjust something for you. So it's, the most likely manifestation of this is construction in your neighborhood. They're painting your building. You have plumbing issues, but it's because of the people upstairs. And so, but now you have to deal with it. So there's a lot of things going on about that. When it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Mercury, which is retrograde, and separating from that inconjunct to Neptune. So money opportunities are starting to clear up. They're starting to gel. You're starting to see money that you can get. Now, Mercury is in your house of communication, and so it may take you sending out an email, requesting payment, or asking for the sale, or things like that. But, you know, the things that were causing this to be obscured are going away. That's good. Mercury is retrograde, which says go back to previous customers, go back to sources of money you've had before. If you made money selling on eBay, go do that again versus going off and doing something new. Now, this Mercury is in that same house with all of the rest of these guys, Sun, Moon, and Mars. And so this also says that there's a tremendous amount of energy for buying and selling going on. And so that's where the focus would be. And that can be, even if you're not in sales, you're still selling yourself in the interview, you're selling your time for a certain amount of money. So there's still a buying and selling component going on. So I see much better money coming in because it is, it's accessible, it's there. Because of that separating inconjunct, you're still having to do parts of it that you don't really like. When it comes to traditional investments, and these are things like stocks or bonds, mutual funds, things like that, or your own business, as we were saying, Mercury is making that separating inconjunct to Neptune. And so that means it's time for you to go in and make some adjustments in your portfolio. And that could be that you are moving from bonds to stocks, or from stocks to bonds, or going from mutual funds to some non-leveraged ETFs or things like that. Just very standard fare. You may be getting more information from your broker. It would be good to go to a reliable source, somebody you feel you trust, because they're going to tell you something that does make you uncomfortable and does cause you to want to pivot. So you want to make sure that the information you're getting is not hyperbole, that it's down to earth, that it's looking at the long term. But mostly this says if you put in the work, if you put in the effort and do the parts that you don't like to do, which might be sitting down and reading some prospectuses or looking at, the statements that the company provides quarterly on how the company is doing, reading the whole, I can't remember what it's called. All I can think is that's their K1, but looking at it to say, how is this company doing? Annual report. There you go. Thank you. I felt like a bunch of you were shouting it at me. The thing that Warren Buffett does once a year, where he gets there with Charlie and they talk to us for like 5 hours about how the stock is doing. Looking at that or listening to that, it's long, it's tedious. No, I mean, listening to Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger is not tedious. It's actually quite interesting, but it can be tedious, and so that's what this inconjunct is about. When it comes to money derived from career, you're pulling energy from that Mercury, which is retrograde in this house of communication. And so I do think that there is more opportunity for you to get a raise if this is the second time you've asked, if this is the second time you've approached, or if you've approached multiple times, this could be the time. Because the Mercury is retrograde, there has to be a multiple. So if this is the first time you're asking, or the first time you're going for a position, you may have to apply again for this position the next time Mercury's retrograde, which won't be until 2022. So I think that there's some good energy if you are finishing up by this is the second time or the fourth time you've asked, or some sort of multiple. And when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that are highly leveraged or unusual, things that you would have to explain to your grandpa what they are, Mercury is doing a trine to Jupiter, and so you do have some very good energy about this. Plus, your house of contracts is actually pretty good, except for that inconjunct to Uranus. So this says that as long as you're willing to negotiate some of the points in the contract, and as long as the other side is willing to as well, you could make a very good deal. If the contract is boilerplate and you have no choice in it, then the adjustment is all on you, and that's probably adjusting yourself out of this situation. So you might also adjust the size of your investment or the timing that you're doing this investment. So we do see some adjustments happening, but mostly I think that this whole process is becoming more clear. I think that you are seeing the ins and outs of this, and you're really ready to talk to the other party about whatever it is you're going to purchase or whatever it is you're going to agree to. Okay, Virgo natives, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of money, also possessions and self-worth. And so this energy does say that you are having a new beginning when it comes to money. So this happens once a year. I mean, very rarely twice a year, but once a year you get this energy where you get to kind of reset your finances. Now, you are doing this in a time where you're doing that inconjunct to Uranus, and that's in your house of beliefs. And so the reset that you're doing is very much tied to what you believe, what you have believed, what you were taught about money, what you were taught about your self-worth and values in general. And so this could be tied to religious things because ninth house does religion. It could be tied to your schooling because of that. It could be tied to your grandparents. Ninth house is grandparents. And so they may have had attitudes about money that perhaps skipped a generation and now you have them, or that were passed down from you from the generations. So this is where how you are handling your money now flies in the face of what you were taught. And so that's one side of it, where you would handle your money differently. But there's the other side where you're handling your money well, but you're finding yourself at an upper limit, at hitting a ceiling because you are running into a cognitive dissonance with a belief. And so that is that, I mean, of course, the most obvious example is where you think that having money creates evil in people, or having money creates vulnerability, if you have a lot of money, then you are a target for people. So this is where you are adjusting your belief system so that you can raise the limit of what you can accumulate. And this is so ingrained in us. And there's a book about this, which I like a lot, which I've mentioned before on this channel, which I think last time I couldn't remember the title either. But I will put a link in the description. But it's by Gay Hendricks, and it's something about the upper limit, but that's not the title. So, it's called The Big Leap, I think. Anyway, I'll put the link in the description. But it is about how we struggle with this limitation that is artificially in our heads that doesn't allow us to go above a certain limit. And that's the energy that you show that you're doing, is that you have to adjust past that limit. And we see a lot of this in the philosophy of Stoicism. If you follow people like Tim Ferriss, and I'm going to forget some other people's names for Stoicism, but the Stoic idea is that, occasionally you grab your sleeping bag and you camp in the backyard so that you are away from all the comforts, so that you know what your limits are, that you can do more than you were thinking you could. And that's kind of what's going on here too, is you are adjusting, but you can adjust to the upper limits. You can adjust upward. So, that was a long way to say you got to make some adjustments here. When it comes to your relationships, you have some mixed energy here, and that's because Mercury is retrograde and Mercury is doing a separating inconjunct from Neptune. So this is like the fog is clearing, and you're recognizing that some of the relationships you have need some adjustments, and others that you can try to go back into a relationship, or you can try to pursue someone that you've tried to pursue before. It may or may not work. everything is very tedious here, and it's tenuous and tedious. So the tedious part is the inconjunct, and the tenuous is that it's a separating aspect. So it's everything's a bit of a long shot, and even if you do come together, it's still an inconjunct, and that's not the greatest of energies. So you might want to put your energy elsewhere. When it comes to home and family, now we have kind of a quiet time because you're pulling energy from Jupiter, which is not part of this configuration. It is, it was making a trine to Mercury, but Mercury has backed up too far, so it's not doing that energy. Venus will go into your house of home and family pretty soon, bringing a little more happiness. So right now, I would say it's pretty quiet there, that, it's not something that is jumping up and down, needing your attention. It's like, it may not be running like clockwork, but it's everything's going along pretty well. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Venus in Scorpio, which is the puppet master for this entire configuration. So Venus is pulling all the strings because all those Libra planets are ruled by the Venus, as well as that Uranus and Taurus is ruled by the Venus. So it's almost like you have this bird's eye view where you can see the different things happening. Now, the Venus is making semi-squares to the Sun, Moon, and Mars, which means you can come down off the mountain and do the work, but you don't really want to. So there is more that you're taking this kind of philosophical view of money, that you are looking at the bigger picture, and this could help you open long-term accounts, move more money into retirement savings, look at long-term investments and things like that, rather than short-term stuff. This is also going to cause you to look at maybe a side business and ask yourself, is this really worth it? Do I need to let go of something so that I can go start something that makes me more money? So, and that's so hard to tell, especially with this aspect being a semi-square, whether it's going to work right away. I mean, it certainly won't, because, there's so much fixed energy here that it would be something where you feel like you're taking a risk by letting go of something that's dribbling in a little money for the potential of making more money. But when this lines up better, then you would see that was a good move. So I think that doing the assessment is really important right now to determine whether you're using your time in a good way, or whether what you're putting out for what you're receiving. Remember that balance. If that's out of balance, then you have to make some changes. When it comes to your investments, and by these we mean your traditional investments, that can be the 401k, the IRAs, but also mutual funds or, non-leveraged ETFs. Venus is making a semi-square to Mars, which we were just talking about. So, and this is, even though this is a bad aspect, it's really nicely positioned because Venus represents your accounts, and Mars, which represents the money from all these external sources, is in your house of accounts, and they're making an aspect. So the money can flow into your accounts. Now, because it's not a great aspect, I think it's less than you were expecting, but it's still a profit, or it was more work than you were anticipating. And so there's some sort of cost here that is bigger than you expected, but there is definitely profits to be had. So, and I don't know if I mentioned, this is also rules your business income, and that could be your business, family business, or some sort of affiliate marketing business where it's more passive. So all of those things, it's more work. It's very much less passive than it normally is. So it's definitely more work, and the results are less, but it's more than you're used to getting. So that part's great. When it comes to money derived from career, Venus is making a semi-sextile to that moon. And so again, we have the opportunity to make more money for sure, because the ruler of your house of money derived from career is in your house of accounts. So the money is flowing directly to you. But again, semi-square. So that means that it's taking a lot more work and your results are less than you wanted. So, you're asking for 100 and you're getting 60, and that sort of thing. You're thinking you're going to get 3 sales and you get 1 sale, but you still have much more money coming in than usual. And so that's great, but you're also seeming to work much harder than usual. Now, when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, Venus is not making an aspect to Saturn. And so this is the area for you to avoid. Saturn sitting in your house of work, and Venus, which is ruling your accounts, is not talking to that Saturn. And that means that you could work yourself so many hours and not make anything. So be super careful with risky investments. If you're already in the investment, like if this is something like building your YouTube channel or something, you're just going to keep doing what you're doing, but you may see that your sales are less, that your engagement's less. It's just a temporary blip because the energy is not lining up. Okay, Libra natives, you guys are doing this new moon, of course, in your own sign, in your house of confidence and your physical self. And it is making the inconjunct to Uranus in your house of resources. So first of all, of course, you get the new moon around the time of your birthday, and so happy birthday. This is a time where you reset the energy, and so this starts your clock for the next 12 months and says that you're in a seed planting time. That means try new things. Hopefully you finished up things in the month before your birthday, and now maybe you've had your birthday in the last 2 weeks, maybe you have your birthday in the next 2 weeks, but now you are starting new energy. And then we look across and we see, not directly across, but in an inconjunct way, that Uranus is sitting there in your house of resources, which means that a resource that you were counting on or that you have been receiving is now going away, or it won't go away completely if you make some adjustments. And so that might be that you have been counting on certain investments to fund you, or you're counting on a source of credit, or maybe just some people who used to be there for you, but because of obligations in their own life or difficulties they're having, they can't be there for you. And so there's adjustments going on because of that. And so this is a time where now the sun is shining on you, and so other people are looking to you to see how you handle these changes. Now, you're a Libra, so all of this that we're talking about is about learning about balance, and that is the give and receive, and the balance between, what you're doing and where you're resting, so work-life balance, all of these things. And so seeing where your life is out of balance and seeing where it's in balance. So, and yeah, if you are Libra, then this is challenging for you because you're learning how to do this in your lifetime. This is what we were discussing in the intro. So, but if you're Libra rising, you do know how to do this, and you can help those Libras out there with learning how to find that balance. When I talk about the resources being not there anymore, again, it is just a lane change. So that means that perhaps the resources were this direct line where, you got a check every month, etc. But now they want you to do it online, and now you have to go out there and check to make sure it's there, or it has to go into a different account or things like that. And so there's just some adjustments that need to be made. It's possible once the adjustments are made, then everything is automated again and everything flows just nicely. Or this may mean that you have to continue to make adjustments. That will depend on the individual situation, which I can't see because I can't see your chart. So, but, assume that you're making this adjustment now to get things flowing again, and then be open to whatever happens after that. So some of the adjustments I think are also in your area of confidence, and that is that maybe, somebody comes back at you with that inconjunct to say, you should not be as confident as you are, or the things that you know aren't true, or something like that. And so there is some energy here that says that you might have to make an adjustment about something that you were pretty sure about in the past. And, that's okay, because we're all learning, we're all growing, sometimes we're wrong, and we grow from that. I'm a big believer in the growth mindset. I feel like if we can get in there, make some mistakes, we're going to learn much more than if we sit on the sidelines and just continue to analyze what it is that we should or shouldn't do. When it comes to relationships, of course, you're doing extraordinary energy because it's Sun, Moon, Mars, and Mercury in that first house, and you're doing a semi-square between Mars and Venus. Now, a semi-square is an interesting aspect because it does say there's some irritation involved. So because this is contentious, it's possible that it's the irritating person who you suddenly discover that you like quite a bit, or vice versa. And so somebody who was pushing you away suddenly is pursuing you. And that can make for a very interesting, but maybe a little more like movie of the week type of a situation. And if you don't want a lot of that drama, you might want to just hold back and let the emotions settle down before you move forward. Now, but otherwise, relationship energy is very good for allowing others to come to you as well as you pursuing. And so that is going to online dating or finding a matchmaker or letting somebody fix you up. You have good energy. When it comes to home and family, you are pulling energy from that Saturn, which is in your house of children. And we've been talking about that, how you might be spending a lot of time on your children or pets. Or nieces and nephews and all of that. Also your creative process, that's also very strong for this. Saturn is, we haven't talked much about Saturn in this chart because Saturn's not figuring that prominently in this chart. The North Node is past the trine. Uranus is, way different. These two guys won't get together until December. So everything at home is fairly quiet. I mean, it's still Saturn, and so there are some things going on, but it's things you know how to do. Maybe there are things you don't necessarily want to do, but you're getting through it. So the energy there is pretty steady. When it comes to your money, you're pulling money from Pluto in the fourth house, which we've talked about several times, about the opportunities it can bring, but also that Mars, which is part of this configuration and sitting in your first house. So when you have the ruler of your money house in the first house, what you want to do is put your name on things to say, I've done this, this is me, and so that the money can flow to you. And you're doing this at a time where you're doing that inconjunct to Uranus. So the moment you say that, somebody is going to say, well, you didn't do it all, it's, other people helped, and you have to make some adjustments. So be aware that either you find it uncomfortable bragging about what you did or even talking about what you did, or when you do talk about it, other people step in to try to correct you, and whether that is a correction or not. So there is a little bit of pushback, but I like this energy. If you're willing to be uncomfortable a little bit, you can make some money, but this is going outside of your norm, going outside what's comfortable, and maybe pushing up against people to say, oh no, I know what I'm doing, I know what I'm talking about, come from this confident place, and then let them process what you've said versus you having to make all the pivots and adjustments. When it comes to traditional investments or making money through a business or family business, Venus is making a sextile to Pluto, and so that is really good energy. Now, a sextile means that you have to initiate the action and then wonderful things happen. And so that would be, you do a little investigation into the investments, or maybe you send out a mailing for your business, or you talk to somebody about partnering with you in business, or things like that, and the money can flow into your accounts. It's interesting because the Venus is also making a semi-square to the Mars, which is the co-ruler of your house of money. And so oftentimes when we're doing a pair of aspects, we will only pay attention to the difficult one. So you may come back at me and say, oh no, this is really difficult because I'm having to stand up in public and, tell people what I do, or I have to go out there and try and get sales or things like that. And then it happens. But that's because you're focusing on the semi-square and not the sextile, which is just that gentle opportunity where you just send out a mailing, do your visualization, maybe do a little feng shui, and things then roll in. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, the sun is not making an aspect to Pluto, but it is doing an exact conjunction to Mars. And so the co-ruler of your house of money can pull money right to your accounts. And this is specifically going to your boss and saying, this is what I've done for the company. This is how hard I've worked. This is what I'm going to do in the future. Please give me more money. And so you have to say please because it's Libra. So this is really good energy for getting a raise, getting a promotion, or negotiating a salary for a new job. So when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, these are the highly leveraged things, or things that just take forever to make happen. This is, you are doing an aspect. So let's start right there. Pluto's not making an aspect to Uranus, but the co-ruler, again, Mars, is making a... Hold on, I have to check. Mars is making an inconjunct to Uranus. So it's outside your comfort zone. And, by its nature, risky investments tend to be that, unless you are so practiced at it that like you're a professional gambler, you're, one of those, what do they call, wildcatters who find the different oil wells or things like that. Not that I think oil is a good investment for long term. So this is that there's something outside of your comfort zone. So even if you are a professional gambler, this is doing something that pulls you away from that norm. And that's where the chances of money are. Now, being uncomfortable either comes from doing something that's new and having to recalculate odds and work on, what's the downside and all of that, or your intuition is telling you you're going the wrong way, and you have to go very slowly to figure out which it is. Because if it's just something where, you are buying a bigger block of stock than you're used to, people can get uncomfortable from that, but you're still using all of your usual safeguards, well, then the discomfort is just because it's a larger amount versus getting into something that's brand new and untested. So inconjuncts, they're difficult. They're difficult for a reason. So you do show more money flowing into your account than usual if you do the difficult thing. Okay, Scorpio natives, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of intuition, hidden talents, and your shadow self. This is also the place of addictions and bad habits, and it's making an inconjunct to Uranus in your house of relationships, which can mean that you are hanging out with people, again, who are not so beneficial for you, who maybe, encourage you to do the lazier things of life or to go back into bad habits. Or this is that you are not wanting to see people, which is understandable during a pandemic, and so you're pulling away from people, but this somehow is causing you to be back into a cycle that is not so beneficial for you. Now, that was all the negative side of that. The positive side of the 12th house is it is stuff that you do know how to do, because if we look at this idea of the evolutionary parts of the chart, and I'm not an evolutionary astrologer, but I'm just using that word, it is the idea that the 12th house was the previous life, and then the first house is this life. And so that would be that you understand Libra energy. You understand about balance and relationships and the give and take of things. And you are then learning the Scorpio side of that is like you can't trust everybody. You have to determine what the truth is, and you don't need to love everybody, but you do need to have close relationships with a few people. So now that this energy is lit up in your 12th house, this is more about doing the things that you know how to do from the past. And so that is about, like welcoming that sort of balanced energy of what's fair, where's the give and take happening, how can I do a good work-life balance. And of course, if you're balanced, then you're not spiraling into bad habits or things like that. So of course, the inconjunct that we talked about is representing other people because it's in your house of relationships. So something may be going on there where people are gathering around saying, you're not getting out enough, or you're staying home you're not getting out enough, or you're getting out too much, or something. They're going to say something, some sort of adjustment is needed in your life, and you can pause and see if that information is valid for you. When it comes to relationships, though, Venus is making a sextile to Pluto, which is an opportunity for you to get something going if you want, but you need to initiate. And because the Sun, Moon, Mars, and Mercury in the 12th house, you're not as easily seen. So you have to make a little bit more effort to be noticed. And so that would mean that you might have to text a few times, or you might have to text and say, oh, and remember me, I'm the one with the long hair, or I'm the one who's the astrologer, something like that, so that they go, oh yeah, that's who this person is, because your energy is hidden in the 12th house. But otherwise, the sextile is great energy. It just says you have to initiate. When it comes to home and family, you're pulling energy from that Uranus, which is caught up in this configuration. And so this can be a little bit contentious. It could be arguments within the family, some disagreements about who gets to spend time with who, should there be more interaction? Should there be less interaction? And so you have to be a little careful, because it's quite possible that some people are feeling very sensitive about this, and you have a lot of power. Don't underestimate your power to give a compelling argument or to get someone to do what it is you want them to do, even if they don't. So you might want to just be aware of that when they're in a vulnerable place, that you don't talk them into something they don't want to do. When it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Jupiter, which is not part of this configuration for a change. So the Jupiter it's moving backwards, so it's not approaching the Pluto. If anything, it's getting tighter with the semi-sextile with Neptune, which is kind of obscuring things in a fog, but it's still an aspect. So I always like to see an aspect because that can also give you a vision of something. So that's actually where I'd like you to focus, is on envisioning what you want, maybe doing that side of activating the energy of what you want before you set out to do it. And that would facilitate the flow of money. And so that's not just visualizing cash flowing to you, because that's really challenging to do, but more to visualize the energy of people coming to you, opportunities, challenges that you are overcoming, things like that. Now, when it comes to your investments, and these would be the traditional types of investments, as well as income from your job, from your business, your side business, or a family business, Mercury is doing a trine to Jupiter. That's really great energy. And so there is that flow of money coming into your accounts. Now, Mercury's in your 12th house, but it's rising in your chart, so it's quite prominent. And that to me says that you can make more money than usual, but you do have to jump up and down a little bit and say, oh, here, throw me the ball, let me take the shot. That's what we're looking for here, is as you announce yourself, as you say to the world, here I am, money flows into your accounts. When it comes to money derived from career, of course, you're doing that same energy, except the boss can't see you. So it's to the boss you have to say, here I am, let me take, put me in, coach, let me play this game. And when you do, opportunities come. Now, your boss may be aware that you are having some time off or that you are working behind the scenes or things like that. And you just have to remind them how ready, willing, and able you are to do things, and then money flows in. And when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that you'd have to sit your grandma down and explain to her, and she'd probably still tell you to avoid them. Jupiter is making a semi-sextile to Neptune, and we do like to see an aspect because Neptune represents the money that's out in the world when it comes to risky investments, and Jupiter represents your accounts. And so the money has to have a way to get to your accounts, and with a semi-sextile, it does. Now, a semi-sextile is not the happiest of aspects. We've talked about this before. It is a little irritating, but if you do that, whatever it is, if you will work with that irritation, those nitpicky little tiny things, the forms you have to fill out, or the government regulations you have to follow, or things like that, then the money flows into your account. So I do see you making more money than usual if you're willing to do those little things. Okay, Sagittarius natives, you guys are doing this new moon in your area of friendships, technology, the future, as well as money derived from career. So we'll talk about that in a moment. So all of this energy is, of course, making that inconjunct to Uranus in your house of work and routines and health as well. And so the bump in the road, of course, could be a health thing. So that is number one, to be taking care of yourself. That is, eat right, get some exercise, drink plenty of water, really take care of yourself. And that's also from a spiritual side too. And that is to do prayer and meditation and the magical things out there, to understand that you're part of the bigger universe and you can receive help and energy from the universe when you need it. But this also can be that you're making adjustments because of your schedule, because you're overworked, because your schedule's too tight, because maybe you're creating issues because you're, binge watching some television, or you're spending so much time on social media that you don't have time to do your own projects. So some of the inconjunct can be that way. With the Mercury retrograde, it's also a possibility that you're having some technology issues, and right now is not the best time to upgrade a computer unless you absolutely have to. I mean, if your computer is dead and you need a computer, of course you're going to go get one. But if you can wait, if it's just an upgrade situation, you might want to wait till after Mercury goes direct on October 18. So now there also can be some issues with friends. Maybe friends need to see you more and you just don't have time, or your friends are extremely busy and you're feeling lonely. And so that's some of that inconjunct energy also. Now, that said, when it comes to relationships, Mercury is making a trine to Jupiter, and so there is some good relationship energy here. Now, one of the adjustments that could happen is a friend becomes something more, and so now you don't see them so much as a friend, but as a potential relationship, and so the adjustment could be that way. It also, though, could be that you are getting into a relationship and your friends are having to make some adjustments because now you're busy, or maybe they don't like the person, which is a red flag, by the way. If your friends don't like who you're dating, you might want to listen, because they are your friends for a reason, So, but there are some, where was I? Oh, you're doing good, really. You're doing good energy when it comes to meeting someone new or having a connection for a long-term relationship, but there are some issues around how your friends are going to respond. When it comes to home and family, you're pulling energy from that Neptune, which you have been for a while. Mercury is moving away from that inconjunct. You're also doing that energy, you're pulling energy from Jupiter as well. And Mercury is pulling away from that trine. So most of this says that whatever was going on before, now it's all settling down. It's getting kind of quiet. You're getting into a routine. So we're not seeing a lot happening here. So if If you've been looking for a house to buy or something like that, Mercury's retrograde and you're not doing any strong aspects here, so you may just want to kind of chill until at least Mercury goes direct. When it comes to your money, you are pulling money from that Saturn, and that Saturn is not something we've talked about a lot because Saturn is not in the configuration, and so it's actually just kind of, plugging along, it's not under attack, but it's also not supported by these planets. And so this is you continuing to do your budget, continuing to work on your income sources, continuing to focus on money in a really healthy way. It says that money is not more difficult than usual, but it's also not easier than usual. And so it's about the same. And that usually means that you need to put your energy elsewhere. Now, that said, when we look at money from traditional investments, and that would be like mutual funds or non-leveraged ETFs, or your own business or a family business, the moon's making a trine to Saturn. And so we do see you making more money than usual. But because it's a trine, it's not because of some sort of effort you've done. It's just happening. Money is just flowing into your accounts. Isn't that lovely? So it is that, compound interest is working, or that your dividends are being reinvested, or that your customers are steadily coming to you. So things are just flowing. Now, the highlight for you is money derived from career because you have the Sun, Moon, Mars, and Mercury in that house. So you have a ton of energy going on for asking for a raise. On the other hand, Venus is not making an aspect with Saturn. Although Venus is rising in your chart, which means Venus is there prominently. It's on the horizon, so it's very easy to see. But it's not connecting with the planet that rules your account. So the money isn't quite getting to you. So I feel like you can negotiate for a raise, but the raise is not coming in this 2-week period. You're probably going to be told, ask again in another month, ask at the beginning of the year or something like that. So I feel like you really want to ask for the more hours or the more money or the better position, but right now it's not coming through, not quite yet. So, if I were you, I would still ask because the energy's great in that sense. It's like people are receptive and they're putting it in your file and they saying, yes, we're going to do it. And then somehow, though, it just doesn't all come together, maybe because of the retrograde or because of other factors that just it doesn't quite gel this time. But then the next time you ask, everything will come together. Now, when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, Mars is not making an aspect with Saturn, and so you don't have very positive energy this time for doing anything with your risky investments. That means stay with the status quo. Do not get into more leveraged investments right now. If you're getting out of an investment, be very careful. Make sure that, you sign everything properly, that you know what you're doing, because it's not beneficial energy right now. So the best thing to do would just be to keep whatever position you have and just hold. Just wait this energy out. It's only a 2-week period. Then the energy will shift and we'll see what happens then. Okay, Capricorn natives, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of career, and it is making the inconjunct to Uranus in your area of risky investments and risk-taking in general. And so there is definitely this kind of adjustment that you're making. Maybe you are, solidly in your job, or maybe you are looking for a new job, but you might be looking for something, well, of course, that you are very familiar with, that you know how to do, that is something that you're completely qualified for, but that Uranus is trying to pull you away from things that you know how to do. It's trying to pull you into things outside of your comfort zone, because that's where the rewards could come. And so it's possible that you're ready to take a step out the door at this point, and that you're you've got the idea, you have maybe funding, you've got partners to help you with, but having so much of this positive energy elevated in your chart means that your boss or some people in the company may be begging you to stay, maybe getting you to forego your other ideas just so you can stay where they are happy to have you. And so it's very interesting dynamic going on with you, because you can get job offers right now, you can get a promotion, you can get all of these different perks from your current job, but it may not be the job you want to do. Now here's where the idea of the pivot comes in, and that is that maybe through your existing job you can be transferred into a project or a team that is doing things that are more innovative. Or maybe you can make a suggestion to the job and actually, create a job that is more in tune with what you want to do. I mean, of course, the more obvious things are to create the side business and have that become successful enough that you can let go of the rest of this. But for some of you, with this much Libra planets in your house of career, it is more that you're staying because of promises that you made, personalities, people that you like, the corporate culture that you like. And these are less about your own growth. And so this is where I think that you have to look at and say to yourself, well, what's the best way for me to do these very discordant energies? How can I, be the person who's still with these people that you love and you care about, but go do the creative things that you want to do? When it comes to your relationships, you are doing some very good energy because the moon is trining Saturn. You are really doing very good energy for meeting new people because the moon, sun, and Mars are elevated in your chart, and that makes you very, very noticeable. Because they're doing the inconjunct to Uranus, this could mean that you're meeting people that you don't normally meet, that they're very different than your group of people. And that's particularly for love relationships. This is a time where if you have really hit a block in love relationships, you're not finding the person you're looking for, maybe look at dating someone who's not quite your type, somebody who's different. This is not dating the opposite, because this is an inconjunct, not an opposition. So this would be somebody who's just somewhat different. Maybe they have a different education level, or maybe they are from a different part of the world, but that there's still some similarities, that they were born in a different part of the world, but they, spent their college years in the United States. And so there's some shared things, but there are some big differences also. But otherwise, I see really happy things for you for relationships. When it comes to home and family, you are pulling energy from that Mars, which is doing that exact inconjunct with Uranus in your house of children. So there's some serious adjustments that you are making around kids. And that could mean that you are now fully into the school schedule and things are, you're learning how to get all the lunches packed and how to get the kids on the bus and all that. Or the other possibility is that the kids were at school, but now the school is going back into lockdown, and so you are having the kids home all day, and so now you're homeschooling again, etc. So we do see some adjustments when it comes to home and family, especially around the kids. It's possible that older kids may be moving out or moving back in, or that older kids may be focused on making some big decisions where there's really no good answer, whether they should go back to school, which could cause them to incur debt, or try to get promotions without going to school, which can be a longer, harder way to go. So, there's there's no real good answer for that. That's something where you have to weigh the possibilities, and that's very in line with an inconjunct energy. When it comes to your money, you are pulling money from that Uranus in that house of risky investments that is involved in this configuration. So we see enormous amount of money activity for you this time, none of it within your comfort zone. That means many opportunities where you might have to ask for the money, where you might have to even demand money, where you have to say that you can do something when you might not be sure that you have the skill set to do it, or where you have to just do things that are brand new. And many of these things would involve getting up in front of people and being confident, and or at least, for the moment, pretending that you're confident so that you could get your point across. So big money opportunities just coming in from all different directions, but not directions that you're expecting, but things that are different for you. You're also, of course, pulling money from that Saturn, which says to continue to watch your budget, learn how to take care and manage your money. Saturn is going to make a square to that Uranus for the third time in December. That's going to be a big time for you. So the more money that you can sock away during this time, the more in a position you're going to be when there are big investment opportunities that are coming towards the end of the year. But this time, right now for the next 2 weeks, I see money opportunities all around you. When it comes to traditional investments or money from a business or a family business, the sun is making an exact inconjunct to that Uranus. And again, I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but this is a big money opportunity that is outside your comfort zone. So it's something that you might not feel like you've ever done before, or you've done it once, but you're not confident about it. And maybe this is the potential of getting a big client for your consulting firm, but this client is so much bigger than you've handled before. Or maybe it's the first time that you're doing something like this. Maybe you are launching a business to help them with social media, or to help them put up a podcast or edit their videos. And you're new at this. And so that's where the inconjunct is. But it's a great money opportunity for grabbing hold of something, especially around your business, or if this is more traditional investments, maybe you've never invested before, and maybe this is the very first time you've bought a mutual fund. And so it's still a traditional investment, but it's outside your comfort zone. When it comes to money derived from career, it's the same story, because the co-ruler of that house, Mars, is making that inconjunct to Uranus. So again, it's like so many money opportunities, but this time you're going to have to ask for the raise, and you might have to ask multiple people, or maybe this is the second time you've asked, or you've gotten the offer letter for the new company, but you need to negotiate the salary, and this is stuff you don't normally do. Of course, who does, right? You don't negotiate a new salary every day. And so it may feel that you're out of practice, or you've never done this before. And so you go on YouTube and you watch videos on how to do it, and you practice with friends, and you practice in front of the mirror, and you get good at this. So this is, it's a learning curve, but boy, is there potential there. And then finally, when we look at risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get started, or they are highly leveraged or highly unusual, this is where you're not doing the energy. And that is that Venus is not making an aspect to Uranus, and it's not making an aspect to Saturn. And so the only connection that you have is that Uranus is in Taurus, and Taurus is ruled by that Venus. But Venus is very late degree, and so what this is saying is that it's too late during this cycle to move forward on this. And it's probably because Mercury is retrograde. Also, there's just wonky energy when that happens. But Venus is going to change signs, and that is going to happen during this 2-week period. And that could mean that you find brand new information. There's something that changes in this, and that causes you to rethink everything. So that's why it is more about you waiting to see what this new information is before you jump in. So we don't have an ability to accumulate money through risky investments during this 2-week period. Okay, Aquarius natives, you guys are doing this new moon in your area of spirituality, religion, travel, education, and legal matters, and it's making the inconjunct to Uranus in your house of home and family. So the kind of things that we're seeing here is that either you are doing education and therefore you are away from your family and maybe for the first time. Perhaps you're really wanting to travel, but you're in a place where you need to stay home for either pandemic reasons or for just general reasons. It's possible that you're in a legal matter that is dealing with your home or land in general. And it's also possible that you are out there exploring new philosophies and exploring religious ideas or spiritual ideas, but these are different than your upbringing, different than how you were raised. So this is the kind of energy, this inconjunct energy that you're doing where you might be feeling uncomfortable, but because all of this is in this house of adventure, there's really, I think, a stronger pull for you to go and do the growth and do the excitement and do the things that are different. And of course, you're Aquarius anyway, so you lean towards that rather than, feeling that you have to stay with tradition or what was done before or to stay stuck. To me, it's a picture of like you're pulling on your roots and the roots are coming up and you'll be able to transplant yourself into these new ideas. But there's still a little bit of uncomfortableness. There's still a little bit of tearing as you're pulling these roots up. But I don't feel that you're going to stay so rooted where you are because there's too much energy that says, look at this big world and all these things that I could learn or try or experience. And so I think there's more of that happening for you. When it comes to relationships, there is that inconjunct between the Sun and Uranus. So there's some trouble here, and that is that you have two individuals, yourself and the other person, and you are coming from very different points of view. And that is, even if you are family members, from a soul place, you might be coming from a different point of view, or you just have different priorities. Say that twice, huh? Priorities. And so that is that, maybe you're coming from the place that says that you want to have a lot of experiences, whereas the other person might value security very, very highly. So there is this inconjunct that you're doing, this point of adjustment where some sort of compromise has to be reached. Otherwise, one or the other of you will be disappointed. So this is the energy for relationships. So as you can see, not great for meeting new people. Or if you do, the person is so different than what you're used to, there may not be a connection that happens. I mean, the connection would be that you both see each other as being so different, but that's it. And with people and your current love relationship, you guys are coming from different points of view. You're looking at the world through different filters, and that's where a compromise is going to be needed. When it comes to home and family, we already talked a bit about that with the inconjunct that you're doing. You're pulling energy from that Venus that is at 28 degrees of Scorpio, so very late in Scorpio, and Venus, of course, rules all of that configuration. It rules all the Libra planets and it rules Uranus and Taurus. And so this is the part that is giving your family a lot of say. I think that there wouldn't be this push-pull, this ripping of the roots out if it wasn't for that Venus. That Venus is that you think of the obligations you have to your family, the connections that you have. So this is what's causing you to not run off to Patagonia, on a motorcycle or something like that, or to just immerse yourself in school, or to, jump into a whole new spiritual realm, just because you are trying to honor the relationship you have with your family. And so again, it's bumpy and it may be external, but a lot of this is going on inside of you, where you are struggling with trying to please everybody, pleasing yourself and others. And so I do think that it's necessary for you to look at the things that cause you growth and leave some of the older things behind, just because learning to be versatile, learning to adapt in this world, that's one of the biggest lessons we have. But there's also a need to relate to others. And so learning how to compromise is really important too. When it comes to your money, you are pulling money from that Neptune, which was having that inconjunct from Mercury, but that energy is starting to separate. So I think that feels a little bit better. It's still strong enough to bring you in some accumulated money, which is good. We'll talk about that in a second. And your second house is also pulling money from that Jupiter. Now, we haven't talked about Jupiter too much because it's not doing too much in this chart. It was doing that semi-sextile to Pluto, but now it's backing up. It's still, well, and I say was, but it still is because of the orb. And it is actually, both Neptune and Jupiter are backing up together, and so they're going to stay in that semi-sextile at least for a little while longer. So we have connections happening when it comes to money. I think money is coming in from some different sources, but it's getting a little fleeting now. And that means that if you have been procrastinating, your time that you can procrastinate longer is getting really short. You're going to need to take action pretty soon. And, I know Mercury's retrograde during this period, and so you can find that very difficult because you might say, okay, I'm not going to procrastinate anymore, but the other person is procrastinating. And then it's important to just work on other things while you're waiting. But this does say that you have some money opportunities coming in over the next 2 weeks, and you can't really procrastinate on these any longer. When it comes to your money from traditional investments, that's like stocks and bonds or index funds, or money from your own business or family business, Mercury is pulling away but making that inconjunct to Neptune. So we do have an aspect. The money is coming into your account, and that's good. Mercury's also pulling away but doing a trine to the Jupiter. So we see the opportunity for the money to get into your account probably much stronger than we have had for a while. So this is a time where you want to look at what you can cash in on the stock, or if you're going to do some big push marketing your business, this is the time to do it. And yeah, you might say, but Donna, it's Mercury retrograde. But, when you're marketing a business during Mercury retrograde, you will market for various times during the year. So it's probable that you're going to hit a Mercury retrograde at some point. Additionally, when you get new clients, if you get a new client during Mercury retrograde, you'll get a second one, or that person will come back to you. So you do want to market. The challenge of marketing during Mercury retrograde is all the technical side, that the headline is misspelled, or you were thinking you were launching at 5 a.m., but it turns out it's 5 a.m. 10 years from now because the date was wrong. It's things like that you have to watch out for. But otherwise, marketing during Mercury retrograde is not a bad thing. And I just wanted to say real quick, myself and another astrologer, Tammy Magaro, are working on a book right now about how to use this Mercury retrograde energy. We are almost ready to launch that, so I'm going to be making some announcements about that very, very soon. When it comes to money derived from career, you're actually doing some pretty good energy, actually quite good energy, because Venus is about to enter that house. That's fantastic. And we have a semi-sextile going on between Jupiter and Neptune. So this is a great time to be asking for a raise, to ask for more hours, or if you have gotten a new job, to negotiate for a better salary. And, those salary might be extra perks or things like that, getting extra vacation time. That can be very beneficial. So that this is one of the best times we have seen in a while for you when it comes to money derived from career. When it comes to money from risky investments, and these would be the highly leveraged things, you know, your Bitcoin, highly leveraged commodities, or anything that takes a lot of time, effort, or money to get started. Mercury is making the inconjunct to Neptune, and so you have an aspect. That's what we look for. Now you have a ton of planets in your house of contracts, and these are good planets. So this is your time to look at the contracts to see what needs to be renegotiated. It is an inconjunct, so there are some points you need to renegotiate, but this could be your time to get all of that nailed down. Now, of course, signing a contract during Mercury retrograde can be quite problematic. So this would be to draw out the negotiations so they could extend past the October 18th date and then sign after that. In fact, if you're signing a very important contract, you should talk to your astrologer about picking a good time, because that will be the chart that rules that entire venture. They, you know, like if you're doing a franchise or something like that, you want to start on a good date. If you have already signed the contract and you're in it, you can find other dates like a launch date, you know, or grand opening date or things like that, where an astrologer can help you pick that as well. But the signing the contract date is a very important date, and so you do want to be careful about signing during a retrograde, and if possible, find a good date to sign. But I like this energy. Well, do I ever like an inconjunct? Not really, but you have an aspect, and that means that you can make a profit if you're willing to go outside your comfort zone and do some negotiations, find some compromises, and that's going to bring you some money. Okay, Pisces natives, you guys are doing this new moon in your house of resources, power, and intimacy, and it is making the inconjunct to Uranus in your house of communication. And so there is this opportunity, massive opportunities all over the place for getting help with things, getting financing, you know, getting a place where you have the power to do something and to connect with people. And yet the inconjunct to Uranus says you have to figure out how to pitch it, how to communicate what it is, and more importantly, how to talk yourself into doing these things, because it's like you don't feel comfortable asking the person who is there holding the treasure, who wants to give it to you, but you're the one that's saying, I'm not sure if I want to ask. So this inconjunct is about you adjusting how you communicate with yourself and how you communicate with others. And if you do, then some amazing things happen. And of course, we see that Uranus also in that house of agreements, and that means that the adjustment could be in writing, something where you are, you know, changing the contract or adjusting the contract in some way through addendums or provisos or all that legal sort of thing, so that you both get a better deal. Now, when it comes to relationships, very interestingly, Mercury, I remember, Mercury is making an inconjunct to Neptune and a trine to Jupiter. So your two co-rulers are both making an aspect to Mercury. And this is interesting. So it says that some of these are just going to be perfectly happy relationships. You know, you've got a lot of planets in the house of intimacy, so finding a love relationship, finding an intimate relationship, that can happen. But it's also the inconjunct to Neptune, and that is where you have to make compromises, where things don't work, where you're outside your comfort zone. And so this is, you know, like you find the perfect person, and then the second date they're terrible, and the third date they're amazing, and you know, it's just because people are complex, and this is a complex set of aspects that you're doing. So what I do like what I'm seeing here about finding a love relationship or strengthening your love relationship, I think all of that's very good, because you can focus on the Jupiter, but you are going to get some of that inconjunct to Neptune as well. When it comes to home and family, you are pulling energy from that Mercury that is in your house of resources, and Mercury's retrograde. So this could be that you are, again, thinking about moving or thinking about refinancing, or maybe you're thinking about renting out a room on Airbnb. And all of these things you are considering again because Mercury is retrograde. And so this is a time to reconsider things, not to start new actions. So if you are bringing something to a close, like you did list your place on Airbnb for a little while and then you took it down and now you're thinking about doing it again, that's okay to do on the retrograde. But if you are just thinking about this for the first time, then hold back so that you can collect all the information about it. And that's also the same with your family. You might be getting into old arguments with family members and you think, I thought this was solved, and then it comes back again, and that's again because of the retrograde. And these would be arguments about finances or who has control of, this object or this person's comings and goings or things like that. When it comes to your money, you are pulling money from that Mars in your house of resources, which is fantastic. It's unfortunately part of this configuration that pulls you outside of your comfort zone. So it looks like you are getting many, many money opportunities. Like money opportunities are pouring into your brain. You are seeing them everywhere you go, and all of them feel like they're outside of your comfort zone, or you have to change your schedule, or you have to ask permission, or there's all these different strings attached, and that's just the way it's going to be. And you have to look at each of these strings attached and say, is this worth it? Should I still do this? And some of the times it's going to be yes. And so, but there might be some compromises and all of that. But I love the amount of money opportunities that I'm seeing for you. It's huge, and they can come from all different places. They'll come from unexpected places as well. So that's all good. When it comes to traditional investments like stocks and bonds or money from your own business or a family business, the house is amazing. So this says lots of money to be made. It's Moon, Sun, Mars, Mercury, and Venus is making a semi-square to Mars. So again, we have this irritated energy of, yes, you can make this big money, but you have a stack of paperwork that you have to do to make it happen. Or, again, it's like somebody will give you a loan and, for your business, but big stack of paperwork. Maybe there's an investment to consider, but you have a prospectus that you have to go through, or you want to go through the company's annual report. There's something tedious, there's something irritating that you have to do, but boy, is there some money you can make. Wow. When it comes to money that is derived from your career, getting a raise at this time is probably unlikely. Mars is not making an aspect to Saturn, though you do have a very nice house of resources, as we've been discussing. So I think you could get some perks. I think you could get some discounts. I think you could get, like discount on insurance or something like that. You might be able to get some more time off. You're going to get something that would be a regular, perk from the business, maybe some discounted stock or something like that. But a raise is going to be difficult. It's also going to be difficult to be getting more hours to make more money. You're basically making the same as usual. When it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, the things that are like NFTs and Bitcoins, but also things that take a lot of time, like writing a novel or a screenplay. Mars is conjunct the moon, and this is really good energy. They are in a money house, which means that you can get funding, you can find really lucrative deals to be in. And again, because it's part of that configuration, there'll be that only problem of feeling outside of your comfort zone when it comes to negotiating or reading the contract or things like that. And you're going to have to slog through it, or you have to find somebody that you trust that is going to help you do this, because this is, the energies are lining up probably better than they have in a long time for you. And here it is, this opportunity. But it's big, and it's so easy to then get distracted and do something that's familiar rather than moving forward on something like this. And of course, as I say, moving forward, I do want to remind you, Mercury is retrograde, And so signing a big contract during Mercury retrograde can bring some regrets or problems. So you mostly want to be working on the contract during this time. Mercury will go direct on October 18, and then you can move forward with things. Then you can feel like things are can be signed and all of that. And by the way, if you are signing a big contract, do check with your astrologer to have them pick a very good date for you, because then you know that you have really good energy. But definitely, if you are, in negotiations with something, try and draw it out so at least you can get past the Mercury retrograde period. But that said, this is some of the best energy I've seen for you for a while. It's just outside your comfort zone. So you have to find your courage and how you're talking to yourself and then move forward. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please subscribe and stay tuned because LaRue wants to say hi.